Does the impending return of Dalton Risner matter for the Minnesota Vikings? Yeah, it's great to see that he's about to come off of injured reserve, but will he actually make an impact on the Minnesota Vikings season? We're going to talk about it and why the Vikings haven't really believed in him at all. The Minnesota Vikings activated the practice window for Dalton Risner, offensive lineman, here on Monday afternoon. And in doing so, he will now have 21 days to practice with the team before he either has to stay on injured reserve or gets added to the active roster. Now, it's really interesting with Dalton Risner specifically because he was brought in to compete for left and right guard, those positions being held by Blake Brandel and Ed Ingram. But there's a problem with that. Not once during training camp before he got injured did he even take a single snap with the first team. So was he really competing, or was he just there? Because right now it doesn't even feel like he's going to make the field, even when he does come back. Now, of course, Ed Ingram is not great when it comes to pressures allowed per Pro Football Focus with 17, and Blake Brandel's played exceptionally well considering his contract. But here's the thing. Pressures are a very interesting dynamic because the Vikings have the second longest time to throw in the National Football League and the fourth longest time to pressure. Now, what that means is it takes the fourth longest in the National Football League for opponents to get pressure on the Minnesota Vikings. So total pressures doesn't necessarily matter when you are holding off the opponents for that long. Plus, when you also take a look at it, the Minnesota Vikings, they're throwing the ball down the field a lot. And then when you have ESPN's pass block win rate, which is measuring blocks over 2.5 seconds, the Vikings are ninth in the National Football League to sustaining pass blocks. That speaks volumes about how good the Vikings are as pass blockers. They're asking their offensive line to do a lot, and they're getting a lot out of them. They're 5-0 right now. So why would Dalton Risner be able to come in and do anything to help this team? He's going to help by being a backup. And it's okay that he's a backup because the Vikings didn't believe in him enough to be the starter, or they would have given him a bigger contract and they would have done it in March instead of mid-May when OTs were already firmly underway. The Vikings never believed in Dalton Risner as a starting caliber player for this football team. They didn't. If they would have believed in him, they would have paid him more and he would have at least gotten a couple of reps early on during training camp or a couple of reps during OTAs and minicamp. He got nothing. Plus his contract, easy out. The Vikings don't believe in Dalton Risner as a starter in the National Football League. And I think that's okay. Because you know what he'll do? He'll be solid depth. He's not going to start over Ed Ingram. You could say, oh, he's a better pass blocker. You know what? Maybe he is a better pass blocker. But he can't block in the running game. And Ed Ingram has been dominant in blocking the run. Dalton Risner is just going to be there. And you know what? Once he's healthy, they may cut him. That's a possibility too. Because if you're going to cut a guy who's hurt, you got to come to an injury settlement. And Risner might not have been interested. Tyler Forness from A to Z Sports, Skol Vikings.